What's going on, Austin, Texas? Welcome to episode 113, season 7 of Talking Throws podcast, Texas style. I'm Coach Jason.
And I'm Coach Jeanette.
And we are throws coaches with the track club, the Throwing Factory. You can go to that website, thethrowingfactory.com, and check out our bios. Big announcement. We've added a new coach to our Throwing Factory umbrella, Mr. Casey Keeter. He will be running north at the Thorn Factory. He will be located in the greater Wichita Falls area, practicing at a small school called Holiday. So if you're in the greater Fort Worth area, greater Wichita Falls area, or maybe even north in the Oklahoma or north of the Red River, and you're looking for a good throws coach, go see Coach Keeter. Also, don't forget about Coach Knight, Knight Power Performance out in Abilene, and then Coach Jarvis East at the Thorn Factory as well. If you're looking for online lessons, in-person lessons, whatever you need, we have you covered in that situation. Also remind you of apparel for 2024. We have some really cool new designs. So go buy you a cool shirt off our apparel page at the website, thethornfactory.com. We want to thank our sponsors for Season 7. Without them, we can't do what we do. We want to thank Texas Track and Field Coaches Association. That website is ttfca.org. If you're looking for indoor meets, outdoor meets for 2024, that's the site to go to. I want to remind everybody, too, that you can find like a top 5 list for girls and boys on the website. So right now, just a reminder, the top discus thrower in the history of the track and field in the state of Texas is a tie between Brian Robertson at Splendora and Gabe Oladipo at Fort Worth Bend Hightower at 2015-02. The second best throw is 2010-10 by Bryce Foster when he was at Katie Taylor at 2021. And in the shot put, of course, Mr. Michael Carter, 83 .5 or a half when he was at Thomas Jefferson in 1979. And then also the guy that we had on the show was Hayden Bevelow at 75 4 3/4 when he was at Whitesboro in 2009. Really cool kind of history lesson at that website, ttfca.org. We also want to thank 4throws.com, quality image price right. Use the code TalkingThrows10 to get that 10% off. If you go to their website, hit the best sellers, you're going to see discounts on 600-gram javelin, 800-gram javelins. You're going to see sales on training shot puts for $70. You're going to see competition shot puts for $88. Also, our big supporter in the Austin area, Ready Up Athletic Development, ran by Zach Phillips. He has created a throws program called Basic Throw Strength. If you go to the website Train Heroic and use this code Throws10, you're getting 20% off. The program is called Basic Throw Strength. It's on the site Train Heroic. Use the code Throws10, you're going to get 20% off. Also, Fiber Sports Discus, a new way to get distance. You can go purchase these at 4throws.com. Use that code TalkingThrows10. But also, too, if you're looking for a link for Fiber Sports, you can go to our website, thethornfactory.com, and you'll scroll down to the bottom on the home page, and you'll see a link for Fiber Sports Discus. Also, NTX timing. Let Carl Hornbeck and his crew manage your data from the start to the finish of any meet. Take advantage of the relationships with Mile Split for free online registration and live results. They can do seating, report generation, timing, live results, and final results, and much, much more. Also, Big Frogs of Colleyville, they handle all our embroidering as well. And then also Maggie's in our table.
Her dog was about to.
Yeah, and then also remind everybody too about lifting DFW as well. Please welcome to the podcast, Luke Bryant, part 2. I'm kind of curious, what's your thoughts on making it go that far?
That's a great question.
Just
do it. Not that hard. Come on.
All right, next question.
Just move on. Come on, just throw the dang thing. I think that's a great question. I think at the end of the day, I think you have to really be passionate about throwing. And excuse me, understand what are your skill sets as an athlete. What are you good at? What are your strengths? What are areas that maybe your weaknesses, and areas that can make you throw far and not. And I think at the end of the day, as someone who threw and then someone who's coached, I think it's the same philosophy. Find out what makes you tick, what makes you throw well, and focus in on those skills and those strengths. Sure, you want to focus in on look a little bit at your weaknesses, and okay, we can improve them. But I think at the end of the day, with a lot of different throwers, to get that discus, or if it's a shot or javelin, what is it that makes Janelle and Jason throw far? What is that? And I think I can only speak for myself, but for me, I was a small guy. I mean, very small. And I think with me, I was fast and I was athletic and dynamic. And so for me, that's what I had to keep. Um, excuse me, on my skill set. And so I think understanding that about yourself, being honest with yourself, and saying, okay, you know what? In my era, I said, boy, I sound like an old man now, don't I? My era. But in all honesty, one of the guys I competed against and had a lot of battles with in college was Mason Finley.
Yeah.
In college, I'm 6'2",
In-
220, 225. Mason's 6'8", and I mean,
340.
that's the way. I don't know how much he weighs, but he had at least 100 pounds on me. It was way stronger, way bigger, and I couldn't throw like him. So I
Yeah.
at the end of the day, to make that implement go far, understanding what what you're good at, and what are your strengths, and really honing in on those, not ignoring your weaknesses. If you're totally immobile, let's get more flexible. If you're weak, all right, let's get a little bit stronger. But then they not forgetting what that home base is.
Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah.
That's good.
That because your orbit of the discus was really good, and you had that high point. Was that something you learned as a early on, or is that something you kind of developed at OU and through just kind of your experience? Because like your shoulder flexibility, I'm sure you know this. Like your flexibility to keep that discus back is amazing. Like it's
Yeah.
astonishing how far you can keep the discus back and move linearly.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you. It's something I didn't learn. I didn't learn. Really, I'd say by anybody. I think. Well, let me take it back. So I started throwing the discus in 7th grade.
Yeah.
Very typically, like probably most.
Because you didn't want to run.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Everybody says that. I didn't want to
Yeah,
run.
right.
I said, go track. You can go here, you go here. They're running, they're standing. I'm going over there.
Yeah, exactly. Go with the throwers. Yeah, I did football, I did basketball, and I think my folks said, hey, you should go out for track. So I went out for track. I said, hey, I'm going to go be a thrower. Did that in 7th, 8th grade. You kind of have your coaches that come out there, and let's be frank, they're kind of your gym coaches. They don't know a whole lot. That was my experience. High school, same experience, I would say. So I just did a lot of trial and error on my own. So as you
Really?
talk about orbit, I didn't have a coach in high school. I didn't do that. Let me take it back. I did have a coach. His name was Randy Vogel. And what was great about him is he was so humble and so much humility. He had played football at Kansas State, and he told me, he's like, I've never thrown a discus. I don't know anything about throwing, but what he focused was on the mental aspect with me. And I thought he did a tremendous job of focusing on the mental aspect of throwing with me. So, as you talked about the technique and orbit, I mean, he would just, I just go out and do my own thing in high school, but he would try to do different things of, okay, we're going to do a 1-throw comp, a 3-throw comp. I was maybe a little OCD. I had my discus, I had 4 discuses, and I always threw them in a certain order. And I always threw them, on a certain, my hand on this side,
Yeah.
and he'd say, all right, we're going to throw it on this side now, and this discus and that and this. And so, I think from his background in playing college football, he would try to do these different elements, which was really beneficial. But to give you the long-winded answer about the orbit, it was really just trial and error. I think I just went out and, people used to tell me I was really fast in the ring. I had no idea. I just went and was like, I just tried to go fast, and I
Wow.
guess I went fast compared to other people.
Wow. So you would just say you were a natural. It was.
It's kind of natural. Isn't it?
Yeah, well, yeah, maybe, I don't know,
Yeah.
I don't know about that, but it worked out well.
Did he challenge you? I'm kind of curious because I have that football background mentality. Did he challenge you to like put yourself in this mental situation? Because our program, I am huge on that. That is my number one priority is the mental approach. Because I believe if I can coach you mentally and you can handle that coaching, if we put you in any live situation, whether it's Nike National, Texas Relay, State Championship, wherever, you can handle that. And if you can handle it mentally, chances are you're going to be successful because majority of kids now can't handle it. And where they are very talented, can't handle the mental aspect to competitiveness in high pressure situations. Did he do
Oh,
that?
he did, absolutely. I remember one of the things with him is we'd go on out and we'd throw, and he would say, okay, I'm gonna. There was a guy who I threw with on my team my senior year of high school. I threw 205 my senior year, and another teammate of mine who threw 166. He was a year below me. He was a junior, and um, Randy Vogel would say, "Hey, you're going to get spotted, my teammate Spencer, by X number of feet. It's a one throw comp." So we would do these different things. Or he'd say, and I don't think these are false memories. I think these are things that I recall. It's been a few
Yeah.
years, but he'd say, "Hey, throw it to the left, throw it to the right, throw this down the middle," different things. And I think,
Yeah.
to be able to get in there, I think, he was a great coach, for me at what I needed, because he was so honest about it. He said, "Hey, I'm not going to pretend that I, you know, need to say, crank that right foot in the middle. Oh, your left arm's too high." But he could transfer the mental aspect, and I think that's what was huge. And I think it really helped us. Myself and my teammate, we did really well. In our meets, and so I think that's a huge thing. That hey, how can you, just what you talked about, Jason, you and Janelle, when you guys go into these meets, you talk to your athletes, okay, hey, how are you not going to be phased when you get into that regional meet, state competition? You've got two fouls, right? And,
Yeah.
and you got to get one more in there to go. Are you going to freak out? Are you going to go in there and you've been in that position, you've practiced it? Hey, it's go time. So I do think it's a tremendous thing to have a coach like what y'all do to really focus in on that.
Wow. Great answer. Great answer. I like you even more. Hey, how do I donate money to you right now?
Hey,
don't
don't you
think
worry. I'll send you a link after this.
Do you take quarters?
I don't think we meet the criteria
Hey,
of what
hey,
is
hey.
the minimum.
Exactly.
Hey, don't you worry. We'll find a way, guys.
We'll find a
a
way.
way. Either way.
$6, $7, not 7.
Yeah, yeah. Hey man, if you're 4 quarters short that getting that quota, let us know. We got your back.
That's good stuff.
Now you're getting staying into your high school career, man. You threw 205 a lot of times. You also threw hammer and shot put as well. I'm kind of curious. What was your experience as a shot putter and a hammer? Did you glide? Did you rotate in the shot?
Sure. Um, yeah, so I threw the discus, a shot. I was a spinner. My
Okay.
my best in shot was not very good. I think I was 53.9 was my best. I think my hammer was 156.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, circling back to the shot, so this is actually kind of an interesting story in high school. So I threw my junior year. um, I weighed 180 pounds, by the way, when I graduated. Um, I was a small little guy. Um, so I weighed 180 pounds when I graduated high school. But my junior year, I sent out a bunch of emails to coaches across the country, and at that time I weighed 177. I said I'm 6'2", 177.
Wow.
My junior year marks was 196 and 50 feet in the shot. And I never threw the hammer down that. And these coaches, was that a typo? Did you get 277? And I remember, I think Brian Bedard up at Colorado State,
Yeah.
he emailed me back, and I actually saw him at a conference up in Denver about a month ago. The coaches convention. I saw him up there. My old head coach in college was getting inducted to the Hall of Fame, so I saw Bedard, and
Oh wow.
him and I were talking, but anyway, Bedard, I think he responded to my email and said, "What's a skinny guy like you out there throwing the discus?" Um, yeah, and I guess he had a point, huh? But so I threw 196, 50 feet in the shot, and I started to talk to all these other coaches and said, "Hey, I was getting partial scholarships to go to these universities, um, mainly because my discus." And
Yeah.
I've also been a three-sport athlete. I'd done football, I've been doing basketball and track, and so I had this background. I had a coach who worked with me on mental side, but I didn't have a coach with technique. So I think they saw some upside. Um, but then I was getting partial offers, and I thought, well, man, if I get my shot up to like 60 feet or whatever, maybe I can get a full. Maybe
Yeah.
I can do this. Um, and some coaches were probably honest, and they were like, man, you weigh 180 pounds.
You're not.
We're not, even if you throw the shot 60 feet, that 16-pound shots,
It's,
you're not going to be throwing that in college.
yeah.
So going into my senior year, I still I didn't practice the shot at all, really at all, until I got into season. I threw it a few times here and there, score points and
Yeah.
do that. And I think I could have thrown it further, sure. But then I knew I wasn't going to throw it in college.
Yeah.
So I didn't really focus on it. Hammer, I threw it one time at like a high school meet, which was, I just kind of picked it on up, whoop, and threw it, which was kind of fun. But no, at the end of the day, I really I did spin in the shot, and then in the hammer. I think who knows what I did. It may have been a 3-turn, try to figure it on out.
So
But
just on your high school marks, you threw 196 as a junior. Do you remember how far you threw the discus as a freshman or sophomore? Because those are huge. That's huge.
yeah, so I threw 142 as a freshman, and then as a sophomore, um, I ended up throwing 163
Uh-huh.
as a sophomore, and then went up to 196.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you have any reason that's huge jumps?
Yeah, I think the biggest reason, Jason, is so my sophomore year, I competed in football, basketball, and track.
Yeah.
And after my sophomore year, my sophomore year, I was a starter on the varsity football team. I played basketball, was playing some varsity, and then doing track.
Yeah.
And I thought I ended up for 4A Kansas, where I grew up. I ended up placing second in the 4A Kansas State track meet. And at this time, I was maybe I was a very physically late mature, so maybe I was 5'10", 160 pounds, and I threw 163 feet. And I remember my dad talking to me saying, I think this is maybe your ticket,
Yeah.
right here. And so I was that, and then I was a pretty solid basketball player as well.
Okay.
So I quit playing football my sophomore year
Um,
and said, okay, you know what? I'm either gonna do, I'm probably gonna do basketball and track, or just one or the other in college. I didn't know which one, so I quit football. And then that whole summer and fall going into my junior year, I just threw the discus and played basketball nonstop. And so I
Year
think
round.
that was the biggest thing of just I went from June to November essentially just throwing. And then that's what made that big jump from, 163 to 196. And when I hit 196, suddenly I went from, maybe some smaller, Division 3, Division 2 as a 163 footer, some small Division 1s to okay, 196. Uh,
Yeah.
some bigger schools were hitting me on up.
Wow.
That's awesome.
That is really, really cool. And still at this time, no really technical throws coach or anything like that. Where so you didn't like go look Mac Wilkins videos up or Al Order or Ken Sisdale.
Yeah, it's funny. So I went to 2 camps. I went to John Powell's camp at the time, was out in Ohio, and then I went to Ironwood out in
Oh, okay.
Washington. So I went to both those camps, and those were areas where I could really learn and understand more of the sport. I love both those camps. They're tremendous. I probably end up going to John Powell's camp, maybe 2, 3 times, but probably twice as a camper, and
Okay.
then probably coached there 3 or 4 times.
Oh, wow. Really?
So
Okay. Nice.
I think maybe you go back to your earlier question about orbit. I think a lot of that could be with John Powell. There's a big aspect that he talked about in his camp. And so, those were things where I'd go to Powell's camp. At the time, it was in Ohio, for a week, and I'd go out there. And then he eventually came to the Wichita, Kansas area, where I'm originally from, and would go to those camps, and then went to Ironwood. And I guess I'm dating myself here. We didn't have YouTube back in those days, but we had I remember buying that, which y'all probably remember that the John Powell, what was it, the DVD or
Yeah,
the cassette,
VHS.
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I had that, and I remember watching a lot of those with the half turns, the South Africans, and I think Oldfield was in there as well. So I think looking at those things, but then also going to the camps were definitely impactful.
I'm curious what your answer to this question be. Would you encourage high school kids to go to camps and get that exposure? Because I have two different opinions on this. I want to know yours.
Hmm. Uh, yeah, yeah, I think it's good. I think it's go out. I think it's good to go to some camps and get different perspectives and see different things. I think that's helpful and important. Um, but I'd also be cautious about what camps those are. What are they going to be? Do your homework on them. I think Ironwood. I think TJ Crater, who's up there now, John Cadina's father, up there at Ironwood. I'm drawing a blank on his Bill Godina,
Mhm.
and I forget the other gentleman's name up there, who founded Ironwood. They do a
Uh-huh.
tremendous job, and I think just doing your homework on them. I think really understanding, because you can go to these camps and they can be really instrumental, and you can learn a lot of different things. But if you have a good coach, with what you currently have, or you have a good club coach or a good system, that's probably more important to spend time with those folks than try to find that shiny carrot and go out there and think, hey, I'm going to go to this camp, and just because someone told me this thing, it's this magical thing that I'm just going to throw further. So my recommendation is do your homework, find out what it is, and if it's a good fit, do that.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome.
that's a good answer.
Yeah,
That's
it's
kind of your exact
it,
philosophy.
it's a tough situation. You want them, the kids, to get exposure, and they think like it's the girls soccer was big in these ID camps, and they're going to go there and be offered these scholarships just like in the soccer, and it's like, no, it's not like that. You know, And sometimes too, they can tell you to, heist point and, stick your left finger in your nose or something like that. And then, you throw 180 feet and you're like, what?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel you.
I'm kind of curious, the one thing we haven't even highlighted is, you won a national championship for Nike Outdoors, but you also won, were Pan Am's junior champions as well, representing your country. I'm kind of curious, what was that experience like? And from a boy from Kansas, putting on the USA jersey had to mean something. And I'm also, my second question is, did you weigh more than 180?
First off, no, I did not weigh more than 180.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was 180 at the junior Pan Am games. I didn't, but it was a great experience, absolutely great experience. It was my senior year going into college. I'd already signed to go to Arizona, and I made the team. I think junior nationals at the time were in Indianapolis, Indiana. And I still remember that it was a really cool experience, being top two, you made the team, and doing the whole USA outfitting thing. That was cool. And then went down to Sao Paulo, Brazil, where they had juniors. And so that was a lot of fun. Yeah, as a guy who grew up outside of Wichita, and even the smaller town I grew up inside, was about 2,200. I think it was a very eye-opening experience. But I think some of my favorite things about that junior meet, junior Pan Ams, was, I'd say multiple things. Number one was, just the experience to compete at an international level, that even though that wasn't, your high level senior, but just even at the junior level, that was a lot of fun. Two, to see a different culture. But then number three, the different throwers, the different, athletes on the team, if they were sprinters, jumpers, distance runners, all across the board. You'd end up seeing them at meets across the country for years to come, at conference, regionals, NCAAs, USA's, trials. So that was really unique. I think those were really cool experiences, as you talk about as an 18-year-old going, and just pretty lucky to have that.
Who was the other guy, the other thrower that went with you?
So Darius Savage was supposed to go. I don't know if that name rings a bell. He was a rock star thrower back in the day from California. He threw 212 in the disc, and I want to say 64-ish, 65 in the shot.
Was that with the 175 or the 16?
With the 16, with the high school implements.
Okay.
Now here's the thing: is he went to UCLA as a football player and as a thrower under Art. And so Darius threw 200 feet, 61 meters with the 2K as a true freshman at Texas Relays, but ended up being a starter for UCLA's football team. And he was going to be on the team. It was him and I on the team, but then Darius had football training camp coming on up. So he didn't make it. And then I think the other teammate who went instead was his teammate, Nick Robinson, who was another UCLA guy.
Yeah.
And so Nick we were the two guys ended up making the team, the junior team there.
Oh, wow. So were you aware of the change and what was going on with the different teammates and stuff? Because I'm sure you're rooming together and that was your training partner.
Yeah. And so, what was kind of interesting is, even when we threw in the meet, Darius, it was clear even before the meet, it was like, hey, if Darius makes the team, the junior team, he's not going either way.
Oh, okay.
Because he's got UCLA, summer camp training, whatever you want to call it. So he can't make it. So we all knew, all right, don't worry about that guy. He may, even if he qualifies, he's not going to go.
Oh, okay.
But he was, he was a tremendous thrower. I think he was 6'4", over 300 pounds. Very, very talented guy. I don't, know his story too much, but I just remember he threw 61 meters as a true freshman in the disc.
Hey, track fans, as you're getting ready for the 2024 spring season and you're looking for someone to run off your meets, you need to contact North Texas Timing. That's ntxtiming.com out of Fort Worth. For all your track meet needs, they'll give you the opportunity to coach your own kids and let them run the meet for you. They have decades of experience in running meets all the way from the middle school level to the IAAF athletic competitions on the international level. They partner with Finish Links and also with Mile Split, where you can see your data, see your reports, see all the things you need. They run very efficiently and will get you all set up. So look them up at ntxtiming.com.
I think he wound up getting drafted. I for some reason I want to say he played with the Rams, what used to be St. Louis, I believe, as a defensive end. I believe so.
He might have. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, very, very talented guy.
What did you throw to? Because you won the games, right?
I did. I think I threw the 175, a little under 60 meters, 59.50, 59.80, somewhere around there. So 195, 196.
I have to ask: are you a humble thrower, or were you like a little cocky walking around? I'm 180 pounds of just I'm shit and vinegar. I have to ask this because I
Uh,
get that impression. I get that impression that if you were backed in the corner, you'd come out swinging and fighting when you're and just like that little pest.
well, I don't know. Ask my wife on that one. We'll have to see. No, I mean, I think a lot of it was humble. I need to be humble, but I think at the end of the day, I had to have that chip on my shoulder. I had to, in a lot of ways. I was a small guy. Small guy. So at the end of the day, I had to go in there, and I was I didn't talk a lot. But I was focused in. I was zeroed in, and I didn't want to talk to other throwers when I'm lining up in the ring, when I'm lining there. I wasn't there to be friends.
Yay!
I didn't do any of that. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I'm here for business.
That's your
And
soundbite.
I think a lot of it, I have to have that chip on my shoulder, because a lot of people, oh, well, it's a small guy doing out here. Why are you
Yeah.
doing this? Why are you doing that? And so, yeah, I mean, I think I definitely, in some ways, I'd mind my own business and do what I needed to do. But, when I was going to get, bigger people or people saying things, that's what I had to do. So,
Wow. And I have to go back to your Randy Vogel and your kind of, I don't want to say your mental coach at the time, but that prep that he got you as a young youth, that's just an attribute to that training to put you in a different country, with circumstances with teammates, your first big kind of international meet, whether it's juniors, and to be able to go out there and win it. Because so many times we see our US go to that situation, and you've seen this as a coach, the results aren't that great.
They freak
yeah.
out.
And I can't tell you, and I'm pretty good at keeping records. I don't know the last time a US in the shot or the disc or the hammer won at juniors. Now I know Tyreek just did something at the hammer, and I think he won that, but in the discus and the shot put, it's been a long time. A long time. So
Yeah, I'm not sure. I haven't paid too much
yeah.
at the junior level, but yeah, I mean, I think what you said, like Randy Vogel, he did a great job at that. Great job in the mental aspect, and that was tremendous. And I also, I think, my mom and dad were very instrumental, in the mental prep, with that as well. I can specifically think about my father. When I go to these meets growing up in Kansas, we went to Golden West, which was really big out in California. I don't know if it's not as big today, but I remember going to that, and the Great Southwest, and Nike Outdoor Nationals, North Carolina. and my dad, and I think it's him and Randy Vogel, what they did a great job of, they weren't going to sit here and pretend, and try to big time you and go, well, you need to do this and that and blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. But my dad sometimes he'd look at me and it was a very simple cue. You know, I'd be like, I do a warm up because my coach, Randy Bo, he didn't travel to those meets
Yeah.
after high school. I look at my dad and it'd be this, or it'd be like, you need to speed up. And it was simple. But I think a lot of that on my own, I had to in some ways, I had to figure it out my own way, right? I think my dad did a great job of saying, hey, that's good. Hey, you need to speed it on up. But it was on me to figure out how to speed it on up.
Yeah.
Was that getting off my left leg quicker? Was that, on the finish quicker? Was that in the middle, turning my right foot quicker? What does that mean? And so I think that's what those preparations help me to win. You go to those other meets and outside of high school, or you go to that Brazil meet and to just go in and, okay, hey, I've been in this, hit the ground running.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. That is amazing. So you've already decided to go to Arizona. You went there for a couple years. If you don't mind telling us kind of what led to you going to OU, and what was your recruitment trip like, experience to Arizona, kind of that recruiting opportunity.
Sure. So when I finished, excuse me, so it was my junior year going into my senior year. I guess it was fall of my senior year. Um, John Frazier, who's now, as y'all know, he's head coach at Texas State. He was recruiting me there to Arizona. He left to go coach, I think it was associate head coaching job to coach the women at Tennessee.
Yeah.
So he left. And at that time, Arizona was probably what I would arguably say one of the best, if not one of the best throws programs in the country. The team had just finished fourth at NCAAs. They had a guy named Adam Keel, who I'm very close with today. He was a NCAA runner-up in the discus. They had another 200-footer by the name of Sean Shields. They had an incoming D3 guy by the name of Dan Austin, who'd thrown the discus 208. I mean, they were loaded. They were absolutely loaded.
Was Meg Ritchie there at the time?
She was a little bit before that.
She was a little bit before. Okay. Okay.
And in Kansas, the wind's howling. The wind blows a lot. It gets cold. I wanted to go someplace warm. And it was a great throws program. And I said, all right, Arizona's it. And Frazier had left. There was a new throws coach that came in there. I competed there for a year. Ultimately, it just didn't work out with that throws coach there, who followed up after Frazier. And then I decided to go to Oklahoma. And I looked at some other universities when I transferred to OU. I looked at a few. I joke about this. I said, man, OU's 3 hours from home. It's in Norman, Oklahoma. I don't want to go here. But the connection I felt like I had with Brian Bluetrick and then the old head coach, Martin Smith, the head track coach there, Martin Smith, it was just, okay, if I want to put myself in a position to accomplish, to see the best that I can do, to accomplish my goals and see if I can reach my potential, I think this is the place for me. So, ultimately, sure, absolutely, I wanted a degree, but I mean, those Bluetrick mainly was the deciding factor of, OU's why I want to go there.
Now, did he talk to you initially during high school in that junior year? So you were already familiar with him and kind of came back and revisited. Is that kind of what happened?
Correct. So Bluetrick was actually at North Carolina at the time.
Okay.
When I was in going into my senior year, and we talked a handful of times. And I remember talking to Blue, and I had decent grades, and I mean, I was a 3.5 student in high school. I think low 20s maybe on my ACT. I mean, nothing spectacular, but pretty decent grades. And I called Blue, or Blue called me, and North Carolina, he goes, hey, do you have a foreign language? Do you have this and that criteria? Because UNC is a very strong academic school.
Yeah.
And in Kansas, I said, and it's funny to think about this, Kansas, I didn't have to take a foreign language in high school. So, but I could get into KU, Kansas State. I could get into all the in-state schools.
Yeah.
So I said, no, I don't have a foreign language. And he's like, well, you can go to JUCO and take a foreign language, for a semester and then try, and it was at this point, I was like, no, I'm not going to go to a JUCO and do that. So anyway, I'd been familiar. But at that point, to be completely frank, I was more dialed in. I wanted to go to some place that was really warm, and I wanted to go someplace out west.
Okay.
But yeah. So anyway, I knew Blue Trick from North Carolina when he was there, and then it just so happened, he was at OU, and we reconnected when I was looking to transfer. And in my opinion, I think he's the best throws coach. In the U.S. I think he's one of the best in the world. And so it was kind of, I've said this to some friends that maybe don't understand or maybe aren't familiar with track and field. And I say, in my opinion, I think Blue Trick's kind of like the Nick Saban of throws coaches. I look at him, Art Venegas, Babbitt. There's a handful of others that are really truly legendary coaches, and I think if you get an opportunity, it doesn't matter where you're at. I think you jump on it. And there's some new ones. There's some obviously other great coaches in there, but I think Blue Trick, Venegas, and Babbitt, are truly special.
Wow. Wow. So, because I know he likes those big guys. He never was like, "You're too small." Not to be, not to. I'm just kind of curious because I know him, so I'm just like,
Sure.
"You're too short. Like, how can you throw this far?"
Yeah, I think
College.
what's that? What's that, Janelle?
You still weigh 180 while you were in college.
I did. I got up to I think 225.
Okay.
225. So I got a little bit more weight on me, but no. I think no. I think Blue. At OU we get some guys that were my size, maybe smaller guys considered for thrower, shot, discus, hammer, jab. I think maybe he would mention a few times to me, maybe not so much of I'm small, but I think he was honest. I think he was honest with a lot of things with me. I think he would say, hey Luke, if you're throwing against this individual who's way bigger, this and that, you've got to use every ounce of strength, every ounce of speed, every ounce of mobility, flexibility to get into that discus because those individuals can get away with it more. Because they're way bigger, way stronger. So I think he did a very good job of communicating that without degrading me. I wouldn't even say degrading, but saying like, hey, you're smaller. But he'd say, hey, we got to really get every source of energy you have and movement into that disc.
Wow. I would say that's probably the first time in your throwing career thus far that you've had now you have a technical coach. And you have a guy that I would almost kind of use the slang mad scientist of how he's thinking when he watches you throw to go along with kind of your mental fortitude that you've been instilled in you since you were in the 8th grade to kind of build this, elite best OU discus thrower of all time, so to speak.
Yeah. I think Blue, I think Blue's, I don't think it's much of a secret. His technical, what makes him such a great coach is how technical he is and his eye that he has. And Blue would say this back in college. I'd ask, how'd you get into coaching? How'd you do these things? And I think he said it was his, and I don't want to quote him on this, but it was something along the lines of, Art Venegas said, when Blue was in college, hey, you've got a great eye. Once you've graduated, let's talk. And I think he knew that Blue had this great eye that he could see things. And I think, Blue was such a great technical coach that when we would talk and do different things, and he could explain it in such a great magnitude and in depth. It was truly, um, just like, whoa, okay. Like he could say, hey, you need to, I don't even know, you need to, hold your left arm a little bit closer in the middle and reach back with your left arm and keep your right here and shoulder here and this and that, and explain, as you keep it here, as you do this movement, you're going to move through, and these are the reasons why it's going to go further. These are the reasons why, and could break it down into little different segments, little different steps, little bits of pieces. And so I think that's what makes him such an incredible coach. I was talking to my old head coach at the coaches convention back in December when he was inducted to the Hall of Fame, and he's like, I just remember Blue Turk having you guys in the indoor track at OU and just torturing you guys. He would just have you guys throw into the net, drills into the net. And it was just a lot of technical repetitions.
Yeah.
So, it was a great, I think it built a lot of foundation, and I think we had a lot of success at OU, the throwers, and then obviously what he did at ASU, and then now he's done it at Oregon. He's just it's spectacular.
When did the light bulb go off for you of like, okay, I'm really like can be this national champion at OU? Because that's kind of what you're training for, as a student athlete, and you keep kind of, 1 year at a time, and you threw the 205.8, which is the school record. You were Big 12 champion. When did you know kind of early on with your time with him after transferring that this is kind of what I'm building towards?
Yeah, what's funny? I don't know if Blue and I ever talked. I don't know if we ever talked about saying, "Hey, I want to be a Big 12 champion," or "Hey, I want to be a national champion," or go Olympic trials, or doing these things. I think in the day it was all focused on how to maximize our potential, how to maximize my potential, and see what that could be. So I think that's what made it really. That was kind of my focus, was like, hey, I'm going to go out and I'm going to throw as far as I can. Let me backtrack. I'm going to do everything I can in practice I'm going to do everything I can in the lifting, everything in the if it's the stretching, the warming up, the recovery, and the drill. I'm going to do everything. And if I go out and I put my best foot forward, and I go out and I win Big 12s, or I win a national championship, or I get dead last, but I gave it my all and I prepped myself, I think that's all you can do. And so, I don't know. I think, yeah, sure, in your back of the mind, you think, okay, hey, I'm in the mix for this national championship, which I was my senior year. I think, at the end of the day, I think, Blue Trick and I would talk about, okay, just go into the meet, the national team, do what you do every day. And if someone beats you, they beat you, go and shake their hand. But if you do what you do, and we'll be in good shape. So it alleviated some pressure. That makes sense. So it wasn't this like, I got to get in there and freak out.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think about that day a lot, that senior year, then getting third behind Mason?
Jason, why you got to bring up old wounds here, man?
I'd also like to preference that the fourth place finisher was a freshman, Mr. Ryan Krauser.
Yeah, it was. That's something that it's your woulda. Yeah, well, yeah, it's kind of your woulda, coulda, shouldas, and so I've thought about this quite a bit. So I won Big 12s and regionals that year. And, it was ended up, the top four guys were actually, this was in the old Big 12. We were all four Big 12 guys.
Oh, Nebraska was it? Oh, wow. I didn't even think about that. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we went Nebraska, NCAA's that year was Chad Wright from Nebraska, Jamaican, Mason from KU at the time, myself, and then Krauser was fourth. And so, we were a stacked conference. But I think going back to NCAA's, I came in, I felt like I was dialed in. I had the number one throw in the nation that year, and I won Big 12s, won regionals. Okay, hey, I'm ready to go. First flight goes on out. I think Chad Wright has the best throw, maybe 195 in the first flight. I was in the second flight, and I remember hitting warm-ups, and I'm dialed in. And I don't know how far, classic throwers talking about, oh, is this far in warm-ups? And all I know is they were over my PR. Let's just say that. They were over my PR. And I thought, okay, I'm dialed in. If I can hit a big throw in the first round, I'm gonna let everybody chase me. Good luck.
Yeah.
Y'all got PR. I went out. I think I ended up throwing 195, 196 in the first 3 rounds. I just tightened up. I hit it too hard. I was in first place going into finals, but I left the door wide open. And that's what I remember, because all of a sudden, you're going into finals, 60 meters, high 59 meters is in first place. The door's wide open. A lot of guys could hit that. So as I mentioned, I knew I had that. If I would have hit that in that second round, I think people would have tightened up and did it. But at the end of the day, I didn't do it. Chad Wright, a great thrower. I think he made the finals at the Olympics, maybe in 2020, maybe before that. But he's a great thrower. Obviously Mason, and at the end of the day, I didn't get the job done, and those guys are a tremendous thrower. So you move on. But there are a few times where I'm like, man, but that's the sport, right? Who can get it done on the day? And I think that's the beauty of our sport. See what you can do that day.
Where's the medal at? Do you have the medal?
Oh, who knows? Who knows? Well, what's funny about that? So I met up with John Gadina. He's a friend of mine, and we met up. He lives out in Scottsdale, and we met up right after Thanksgiving. And so, kind of small world here. I don't think this is anything confidential. I think John would probably like me saying this. His wife, Christina, was a part of 2 Final Four teams as a volleyball player at Texas. So I've got to know his wife, as obviously I work now at UT. I've got to know his wife. And so anyway, I went out and I was out in Phoenix recently, and I saw John and his wife out in Scottsdale, and he's got all his 4 world championship medals, silver medals, this and that. It's in a duffel bag, like under his bed somewhere, He pulled it on out. Oh, I don't even, because I asked him, like, where do you keep your stuff? I don't know, man. There's somewhere around here. So, I mean, so my third place, who knows? I don't even know where that's at, but that's nothing, So, it was interesting that John shared that, you think, one of the most decorated shot discus combos ever, Is that
For sure. And so then that segues into that 2012, Olympic trials where you make the finals. That you kind of felt you were peaking. You kind of felt, like, man, I have a shot. I have a shot. I guess, did you have the Olympic standard? I don't even know that.
I didn't have at the time. They had an A and a B standard.
Yeah.
I had the B standard.
Okay.
I think you had to have the B in place top 3. I think maybe that was it. I think, at the end of the day, my same motto was, hey, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to focus on what I need to do, focus on how I can throw, and, just try to execute what I can and see what happens. And, that was always kind of my mindset with it. And, I think trial, I mean, it was a good experience. Getting into finals, I think it was myself and Nick Jones, who used to throw at Abilene Christian.
Yeah.
I think we were the only guys that ended up making in the finals that were in college that year. So that was pretty cool. That was a neat experience. But, I think I was a really, young guy, in a sense, still in college. And, I remember there was Jared Rome and Einwaltz and Casey Malone and Jason Young, a lot of these true veterans, as I'm 22 at the time, and these guys are, 35, my age now, 34, 35. And so it was a cool experience, and just try to go out and, I knew at the end of the day, I didn't have an A standard. Um, I didn't have that. So I can't remember what I was going in. I think I was maybe ranked sixth in the US, maybe
Yeah.
seventh, and then top three from that make the team. But I didn't have the A standard. So I knew just I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna focus on what I need to do, focus on whatever that is, and let the chips fall where they may. And that was that.
Yeah, but you still making the finals was a huge accomplishment, especially at that age with that group. Jared won it. Jared got first, I believe.
Yeah, yeah, it was great. It was great. It was really neat to see that. And one of my favorite stories about Jared, I remember going into the tent. It was a tent, kind of your warm-up tent, before you head out to the track four finals. I mean, it was it was terrible. It was like 50 degrees. It's rainy. We're in Oregon at Hayward Field, and you see Rome walk in. He walk, and he could control a room. I mean,
Yeah.
he's a monster, man. He can control a room. He walks in, headphones on, sunglasses on, and it's like you just knew, like, there were other throwers there kind of talking to each other in the room. And Rome was just there, almost like the Terminator, glasses on. You were like, I mean, it was hard to not like keep your eyes on him, but I remember with Rome sitting in that tent, in Rome sitting there, and he asked the officials. They said, "Hey, all right, we're going to go out to the ring. You guys get 15 minutes or 20 minutes, whatever it is, and we're going to do 2 discuses for each person going in there." And Rome goes, "Hey, I think we need to do 1." And the official's like, well, and Rome's like, "No, we need to do 1." And the official like pulls out his rule book, and he's like, "All right, well, we have to get everyone to vote in here, the other throwers, to all agree to do 1 discus instead of 2." And Rome he turns to me, he's like, "Luke, you good with 1?" And I was like, "Oh, yes, sir." And although, he's going down the line, "Casey, 1, 1, 1. Okay, 1." And at that moment, like, I think looking back, you knew he was going to make an Olympic team, because he came in and he was going to do whatever he wanted to make that Olympic team. There was nobody else that was going to get in his way. It was his rodeo. And I think I learned from that as, he's a 35, 36-year-old vet, and I'm 22 years old coming out of the collegiate scene. Is like, okay, this is a different ball game.
Yeah.
He was gonna, yeah, he was gonna win it. I mean, he was ready to go. And I mean, it was for me at that time was very eye-opening, but it was a great experience.
That's a great story, because I could picture him going to like Casey Malone, 6'6". Then you got
Yeah.
Jason Young, and there's Mason, and he's like,
Oh, he was. "Oh, you want one? Go on." You didn't want to say no, and then there's another story. I won't name the thrower, but I'll just say there's thrower ended up making that team. You can probably read between the lines. He ended up going and he was doing drills outside that tent for just hours, just right an hour before. And then, he did different things to just put himself in position. And it was truly just veteran work. And I think those are things that, I didn't get to that level. I didn't make an Olympic team. I didn't do that. But I think just seeing that, and for me, I was a young pup, but to see that from those guys was helped me, as I threw a little bit longer in my career, but then also coaching, that you really got to see the ones that are true veterans, true professionals. As we talked about earlier, they're not there to chit chat. They're not there to talk around. They're focusing on what they have to do, and they're going to make it work. And they are truly in that mind, when it's time to compete, nobody else matters. It's just, this is my ring. This is what I need to do. Get it done.
Great comment. I'm kind of curious, what's your perspective on what's how the U.S. is doing currently on the men's side in discus, because we didn't have Mathis, made the finals in the Olympics, and it's kind of the results in the trials have not been that great.
Yeah. Those guys are, I don't know, they all kicked my butt, so I don't know how much comment I can say about
what they're doing,
that.
right?
Yeah, but I think they're doing. I think discus is coming along.
Okay.
I think with Sam Mattis, I can't remember what did he place at Worlds a couple years ago. I mean, he was in the finals.
Yeah, I think he got a sixth or seventh.
Sixth or seventh, yeah. So I mean, he's made some noise there. Reggie Yeager's, Mason's moved on. So I think there's, I think the hard thing in discus in the U.S. There's so many talented guys there. Um, and this is just my opinion. I think the hard part that we see is after college, because there's just not nearly the amount of support for American throwers, and specifically the discus compared to these other countries. That they're not having to work another full-time, they're not having to work a full-time job, a part-time job. They get your physio, they get your strength and conditioning, they get healthcare, they get all these things. And so, I think it's I was talking to Doug Reynolds, who coaches at KU, and Doug is a good friend of mine. Doug and I talk quite a bit, and you could probably get Doug on here sometime, and he can give a dissertation on it, and I could probably too if we had more time. But I think at the end of the day, it's hard to say when you're competing against some of these other countries that just have a lot of this support that maybe Americans don't. But I think it's getting better, and I think it's improving. And I think there's a lot of young up and coming talent, and there's still good talent there. And I don't really know. I don't want to really speak for that level of, at a finals, at a Worlds or Olympics.
Yeah.
I didn't compete there, so I'm not sure. So, but obviously want us to do great.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, I was just kind of curious because my view is exactly what you said. The Europeans just have so much more support, and then also too, our best athletes, the 6'6", 270-pound, guy is playing football. And that's maybe where we're losing a perfect UT graduate, Brian Robinson, who played for the Vikings, who's the Texas, high school record holder at 215 too. What could he done?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, for sure. Well, I'll give you a quick story here. This is my first year post collegiately. I went out to a meet out at UCSD in San Diego, out in La Jolla. I throw in a meet there on a Thursday. I went down to the Olympic Training Center on a Friday to train, and there was a Canadian thrower who threw in college, and he came to me and he goes, "Hey, Luke, how's your training coming along? We graduated the same year in 2012." And I said, "Oh, it's good, just trying to juggle a lot of things." He goes, "Oh, well, what are you doing?" I said, "Well, hey, I work 20 hours a week in athletics development at OU. I'm a full-time grad student. I'm trying to train." And he goes, "Well, when are you going to take discus throwing post-collegiately seriously?" I go, "What do you mean?" And he's like, "Well, here at Canada, I get all my room and board paid for. I get a stipend. I get health insurance. I get all this. I can come down here to the training center. I'm training, 3 months out of the year." And I said, "Well, we don't have that." And maybe it's changed now, but at the time, it's very different. So, I think that's one of the things. And I think the USA TF Foundation has helped out tremendously.
Yeah.
I think they've done a great job in the past 5-10 years. But at the time, I think that's what you see is these throwers. It's hard to stay in it, as these other countries that you're getting all this and that, and minimal resources. But I think it will evolve, and it's evolved over time.
Yeah. But we are seeing kids throw further. especially in the high school ranks, and those numbers are starting to creep back up there and stuff. So, I think, in the last 2 to 3 years, I was talking with someone, and there's been like 15 to 20 kids throw over 200 feet in the discus with a 1.6. And back 10 years ago, 15 years ago, there might have been 6 or 7. I don't know how many during your time. If you might have had the best throw in the country at 205. But those numbers are starting to creep up there and stuff. So you have kids like Kevin Grubbs, who's down at University of Houston now, who's throwing on an international level, who could pop some big ones for sure. So.
Yeah, for sure. I think it definitely has evolved, and it's cool to see that. I mean, I think it's great to see that, and in USA, high school track and field, and collegiately, and then I think even post collegiate, I think it's all in the discus and just throws in general. I mean, it's pretty amazing what has been done. From the women's hammer to the shot to. Kara Patterson, or excuse me, Kara Winger,
Yeah.
now, what she did. I mean, it's really neat to see.
Yeah, we became a power, and especially on the women's side. Val in the disc, Chase Eatley, what she's doing in shot, put her and Maggie Ewing, blue trick, prodigy as well. So for Hammer, and and Deanne for sure. So yeah, well, dude, thank you so much for being on. What a great story. This was so good. We might do this. We might divide this up into 2 parts.
I know. I was like, this was. we may
Hey,
have to.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just getting going here, man. Keep on going. Hey.
My watch rang a while ago and said it was my bedtime.
Hey, yeah. If we go any longer, the editor-in-chief is going to cut us off. Now, your wife was a collegiate athlete, is that right?
She was, yes. My wife played tennis in college at a school called Saginaw Valley State. It's a D2 school up in Michigan. That's where she's originally from. So yeah, it's good. We actually met at OU. She worked previously in athletic administration at Michigan State and OU. So it's been very helpful, with my role now, but previously in the past, specifically in coaching. To as I'm sure both y'all understand, to have a spouse that's supportive and have been through that in coaching, that you work a lot of long hours. So yeah, she's been in it. She's been involved. So it's great to have her, us as a team. Athletic wise, we want to be the best athletic department in not just the SEC but the country. But we won the Commissioner's Cup, which is the overall best athletic department in the country 2 out of the past 3 years. So, a lot of
just won the national championship.
I'm sorry.
And volleyball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, as y'all know, the standard at Texas it's a high bar, high standard. So, I think it's to get in and, go to the SEC and compete right away and win. I agree.
Do it. Just get better.
Just do it.
Just do it. It's not so hard.
See somebody walk around for the next week just saying that.
Just do it.
Yeah.
Just do it. It's not so hard.
Well, man, thank you so much, dude. You rock.
No, I appreciate you guys having me on, and love what y'all are doing for with the podcast, and then just in general with your training group up there. I think it's great for throwers, great for the sport, and as we talked about, I think to have more of that, it's really great stuff. So creating the next generation. Well, thank you guys again. I think my wife's getting ready to finish some soup here, and I want to hold y'all up, Janelle.
Thank you.
Well,
thank
you
you
again. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
We'd like to thank Luke for being on. The thing I love about Luke is, he doesn't fit the typical stereotype discus thrower. He got away with a lot of speed and grit, and I think he learned that from that football coach that trained him during the high school area. And, he wasn't all caught up in being technically perfect. And I think sometimes, too, you get with people and, they harp too much on the technical side in the fact that, sometimes it's his rhythm, his flow. He mastered how he knew to throw far, and he hung with it. But also at the same time, too, what a lucky experience to go with the great coaches that he had, of like John Frazier at Arizona, and then Coach Bluetrick at Oklahoma, and then life kind of came full circle for him when he was working with Coach Frazier again as well. One fascinating thing is the fact that what he does currently at the University of Texas and being an OU graduate, but to be able to handle that role of director of principal gifts and he recruits funding and stuff like that for very large amounts. And that has a high pressure job in dealing with multifacets of people. And I think dealing with multifacets of people in difficult situations, whether it's a wet ring, a dry ring, a bad discus, whatever it was, I'm sure that carries over into his current job and really, really helps him to be successful as well. And this just caring and doing and being a really good people person as well. So, I think sky's the limit for Luke Bryant, and we wish him the best.
Awesome. All right, we want to thank our sponsors for season, 7?
Yes.
Season 7, Texas Track and Field Coach Association, TFCA.org. For the latest and greatest. Go check out all the meets are posted. Season's pretty much started, right? High school seasons will be kicking off. All the records are there. Go look at those. fourthrows.com. Use the code TalkingThrows10 to get 10% off. Any kind of implements you want, go check those out. Ready Up AD, if you're in the Austin area, call Zach Phillips at 512-507-8347. And remember to check out his program. It's at the Train Heroic website. It's called Basic Throws Strength, and use that code Throws10 to get 20% off. NTX Timing, you're going to be seeing them around a lot at meets this spring. So give Carl Hornback a call, and their quotes, I love their quotes, I always say them. Let us do the work while you coach, and that they're committed to excellence. And if you're waiting around at a track meet, you ain't waiting on them.
Hello, Talking Throws Texas podcasters. I'm Bruce Caldwell. I'm here today to introduce the Fiber Sport Discus. Yes, many of you thought I only made great vaulting poles. I have been bringing quality discuses to the throwers' hands for over 40 years. First as Cantabrian USA representative, then for the past 10 years as the Nelco Discus distributor. I introduced the yellow-plated discus for the plastic's best durability. If your Fiber Sport discus breaks, we replace it. Our studies have reached into the science of using a wind tunnel and adding microchips to the discus to find the spin, the gravity, the flight stability of the discus. We have found it's not about rim weight anymore. It's more about creating a balanced stability to allow the discus to fly and surf the wind. Our new Fiber Sport Discus is made to be selected to fit your needs, no matter the weather, no matter the conditions. Check out our discus selection guide at fibersportdiscus.com and find a dealer in your area that sells our fine product. Thank you, Jason and Janelle, for allowing me to talk with your listeners on Talk and Throws Texas Style.
Big Frogs Colleyville, check them out for all our embroidery needs. And then as always, Lifting DFW, give us a call. Train you on all the lifting.
Yeah, but also too, please go support our YouTube channel. Thank y'all. See y'all down the road.